Yeah, that's a huge part of the equation, and probably if you asked our investor clients, probably a main reason that they like to work with hard money lenders or private. The biggest aspect there is that because we're a private company, independent company, we're not needing to adhere to the same guidelines when it comes to underwriting, which in essence makes it a more efficient process, right? Like you think about borrowing money from a traditional lender. Myself, I was a banker prior to starting Kentucky Private Lending, and even the best banks with their processes they've built and just really large institutions that do a fantastic job. Inherently, there's just more hoops to jump through, maybe one way to put it.
Right.
And so even the very best, they don't have the same flexibility that a company like ours does. The flip side of that, we're obviously taking on more risk, which is kind of the trade-off, right? But with us, the speed. I mean, I tell all of our clients, just a general guideline. If we've got 10 business days, that's plenty of time for us to get a deal done, from submitting the deal online to closing and funding that deal. The way we're able to do that is, from an underwriting perspective, we're really asset-based lenders, meaning that we're underwriting the property more so than the borrower. We're underwriting the borrower just in a more subjective way. We want to get to know you, understand your background, what level of experience you may or may not have with real estate investing. We'll still, run soft credit pools, things like that. So we're not just handing out money, but it's a little more subjective on that side, because at the root of it, what we're getting at is, what is this property that we're funding on? Where is it located? What condition is it in? Let's really look at your rehab budget and scope of work, what you're going to be doing to the property, and ultimately through an appraisal, seeing what that property should be worth once you've completed it. And getting into, what is your exit strategy? Is this a buy and hold? Well, let's look into your refinance that you're going to be getting into, or if it's a fix and flip, relying on folks like yourself who have a really good market knowledge to know, what the likelihood of selling the property for what it appraised for, how we feel about that exit. So we can do that in a very short amount of time. So, for our investors, they love it because they can submit a deal and, within 24 hours, know whether we like the deal or not, and have, preliminary terms in their hand to know what the cost is going to be, and all of those things. And then from there, as long as we don't have just a really ugly title that's going to take a lot of work to clear up, we can typically get an appraisal in a few days. Whatever day the appraiser gets out to the property, typically that following day, we have the appraisal report back to it.
That's wicked fast.
So yeah, because while it's not cash, it's probably the next best thing because of the timeliness of it. And just making it easy, like Hampton mentioned, hard money can be easy. Actually, when we met prior to Flip Savvy and all the good stuff that we've done together educationally, we were doing a little class called Hard Money, or Private Lending 101, Hard Money Made Easy.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been at the forefront of us, building this company. Is like, we know that for these investors, deals can be competitive, and being able to efficiently get the funding that you need, as long as the deal makes sense and everything looks good. We keep that top of mind and try to move very quickly. So yeah, it's a big part of the equation, a big reason why people do business with us, and always a focal point of what we're thinking about when we're building out processes and building out our team, to make sure that we can have those type of turn times that investors need.
Looking for funding that works as hard as you do? Kentucky Private Lending provides fast, flexible financing solutions tailored for real estate investors and small business owners across the Bluegrass State and beyond. Get the capital you need without the red tape. Visit KentuckyPL.com today and start building your future.
And we've talked a little bit about, getting money quickly, and that speed many times is the name of the game, or to secure deals, to get them closed, in real estate. I know I'm thinking of auctions in particular, some commissioner sale auctions, or just online or in-person auctions. A lot of times you've got to put down money the day of the auction and be prepared to close within 10 days. Sometimes it's 30, but sometimes it's 10 days.
Yep.
So you talked about that 10-day time frame. And you said investors can go to, KentuckyPL.com to kind of submit their deal. I hate to call it pre-approved, but just do a little, submit the information to you. And you guys have worked with seasoned investors. I've heard you've worked with newer investors that have a good deal, or newer investors that partner with someone that's seasoned to kind of hold their hand and help them, be accountable and make sure the deal is profitable.
Yep.
But have you seen any examples recently where you guys have stepped in and helped save a deal because someone didn't have the money to get it done with cash, or they were trying to go through bank financing and it took so long, or they're waiting and waiting and waiting and need more documents, and then you guys stepped in and got it done quick?
Yeah. That happens a lot, because I think, and to kind of give some context before I get into it, there's multiple ways to fund a deal, right? We all know that. We're one of those many ways. And so, these stories aren't intended to, shed any negative light on traditional funding options or things like that. But we do, I think, just inherently, if someone is typically using traditional financing and there's an issue there, then we're like that next call, right? Because they're like, well, hey, maybe these guys can get something done. A recent example, we got approached by a realtor that we had funded some deals for his clients in the past. He kind of got to see how we operate and enjoyed doing business with us. So he reached out to me and was kind of like, hey, I don't know if there's anything that could be done, but I've got this guy. He's been under contract for like 8 weeks already. He's working with a traditional lender. I forget if it was a mortgage broker, some type of more traditional funding. And he's like, they're just running us through the ringer. Like, we've been through this process for 8 weeks already. Now all of a sudden they're telling us we need to get a second appraisal on the property, even though the property as is appraised for about the total project cost, what he's buying it for and what he needs to rehab it, not even looking at the after repair value. And he just kind of said, hey, I don't know if there's anything you can do, but if there is, it's a 6-unit property. It's in Old Louisville. I'm trying to help my guy out because we've extended twice now. I don't know that we can extend a third time. I don't want him to lose this opportunity.